All right, so first we're going to read this text and look for a main idea, and then when we get to the bottom, we will go through how to analyze word choice and how it impacts the text. Please code with me. Daily life in ancient China changed through the centuries, but the Chinese maintained a belief in the gods and one's ancestors during almost every time period. Okay, so a lot of change happened, but they did hold on to the idea that gods and ancestors were very important. In the prehistoric age, about 5000 BC, people lived in small villages in the Yellow River Valley, which cuts through most of northern China. Okay, so I'm highlighting that because that's like the when, the main, or the main where. One of these villages, Banpo, shows evidence of a matriarchal society in which women governed and dominated religious life. Okay, so I'm highlighting Banpo because that's the specific where. And then one important what about Banpo is that it was a matriarchal society. So that means that women were in control of the government and other parts of the society. Small villages like Banpo grew into larger communities and then into cities. The Xi dynasty, which lasted from 2070 to 1600 BC, was the first form of government in China that established large cities. The dynasty was thought to be a myth until archaeological evidence discovered that may prove it actually existed. Okay, so I'm coding that these small villages grew into large communities, and I'm just going to leave the rest of that uncoded because these are minor details about how they grew, and most of the text isn't focused on that. After the Xi came the Shang dynasty, 1600 to 1046 BC, when writing was developed. During this time period, the first written evidence shows what life was like for people in ancient China. Okay, so I'm going to just code that after the Xi came the Shang dynasty, and that was when writing was developed. Now that I've coded for main idea and I know what this text is mostly about, I'm ready to start analyzing word choice. So the word that has been we're focusing on in this section is the word dominated. I've already defined the word as to have control or power over. And so really my first step is to stop and ask myself, what is this word doing in the sentence or in the section? So I'm going to reread the sentence that uses the word. One of these villages, Banpo, shows evidence of a matriarchal society in which women governed and dominated religious life. Okay, so it sounds like to me that this word is really trying to show or make it really obvious that women had a lot of power in this village. I'm also thinking about the word dominated and how it can be used. It's kind of a strong word to use to show that someone has control or power. And so now I'm on to step 2, which is thinking about how does this word kind of change how I understand the topic. And really, it makes me realize that they didn't just have, leadership roles, but these women were the main leaders in the village, and people couldn't take away this power, men or women. And so now, after that thinking, I'm ready to start writing my conclusion statement at the bottom. So I've already started it over here, but I said the author's use of the word dominated to describe, and then I put the topic that's being described, so women's power, impacts the meaning by, and I chose the word emphasize. On your work today, you'll have this little active verbs list, so you'll want to choose the word that best matches what the word in the text is doing in the sentence. So I chose emphasize because dominated is really trying to show how much power they had to the reader, and that is how I finished my impact statement at the bottom.